This ANN is the input compressor here, 16 inputs. Then you have all the 4 outputs here. So the trainable parameters are, you need to identify the weights for all of these neurons. For every neuron, there are 16 inputs which are entering to the neuron, that is cell body, that is the adder here. So these 16 inputs will be multiplied by 16 weights. The first input will be multiplied by the corresponding weight, second input, third, and again 16th input will be multiplied by the corresponding weight, and all of them enter into the adder. Then they get added with again a bias element. Then you get an output N1, and then you pass it through a Purelin function. Purelin is a linear function, and then you get an output equal to A1. So the trainable parameters for each neuron is 16. Since there are 4 neurons, there are 16 cross 4 weights that need to be identified, which has been done because of the training process. And each of this neuron will have 4 biases. So even that we have also identified. Now this entire structure, whatever we have over here, is mathematically represented as 4 cross 16 multiplied by 16 cross 1 will give you an output of 4 cross 1. So you have 4 cross 16, the weights, which are all here, and your input is 16 cross 1. So there are 16 rows and 1 column. When you multiply this, the output will now become 4 cross 1. Okay. So this is the mathematical equivalent of the hidden layer or the compressor. Now, this is the weight matrix that has been generated after training program. So I have captured this weight from the MATLAB environment. And if I take this for the neuron 1, there are 16 weights. All of them are in fractions. For again, neuron 2, there are 16 weights. Neuron 3, neuron 4, all the 16 weights have been captured after training the network in the MATLAB environment. Okay, yeah. Now you see here, there is a single neuron. And for this single neuron, the weights W1 to W16, I take it from the first row. Similarly, the bias element for the first neuron is minus 0.29602, which is obtained from my MATLAB environment. So what happens is, to compute this single neuron output, we are actually performing a multiplication like A1 is equal to F of N1. Okay, that means your N1 is function of A1 is function of N1, and N1 is actually multiplication of all these weights and pixels or the inputs along with the bias. Now, if you try to implement this network architecture on a hardware, we know that for one single neuron, you need to have 17 multipliers. Why 17 multipliers? Because there are 16 inputs. So for each input, there is a corresponding weight. So you have 16 multipliers plus 1 bias. Since bias is always going to be multiplied by 1, it will not have any multiplication, but it will be simply an addition process. But still, I have considered here as a multiplier factor, and I'm taking it as 17 multipliers for the considered structure to compute one output of the neuron. Then the number of adders is naturally 17 minus 1 is 16. So you need to have 16 adders to complete the process of multiplication and addition. Okay. Then the number of storage elements. So 16 inputs, 16 registers to store the input, 16 registers to store the weights, and then after the multiplication is achieved, that means you have the partial products. There are 16 partial products. To add each one of them, you need to have 3 stages. In the first stage, you'll have 8 adders. Second stage, you'll have 4 adders. Third stage, we'll have 2 adders. And the last stage, you'll have 1 adder. Because every time we can have only 2 operands. So you'll have almost 15 adders required to implement this cell body, this adder structure. And 1 adder for the bias. So these are the total number of storage elements, and output of each one of them are actually stored in a separate memories. The network activation function here, since they're using Purelin, we need one network activation function to implement this structure. Okay, yes. For the decompressor, since there are 4 outputs available at the output of the compressor unit, that 4 outputs should be decompressed to 16 outputs. So to decompress that to 16 output, we have 16 neurons, and to each neuron, you will have 4 inputs coming from C1, C2, C3, C4, compressed inputs. Okay, and it is equivalent to performing a mathematical operation of WP is equal to A, where your W weight matrix is 16 cross 4. That means there are, for every neuron, there are 4 inputs, and there are 16 neurons, so it is 16 cross 4, and your input size is 4 cross 1, so you get output as 16 cross 1. So this is the output that you generate. Okay, yeah. Now again, the trainable parameters are 16 cross 4 and 16 biases. Now for the compressor, again, I have identified the weights which I could get after training program. Okay, so there are 4 weights for every neuron, and all these 4 weights, if you see, it's basically a fraction, okay, number, a real number. So now you have to see how to implement this for your hardware implementation. There are 16 biases. So first bias is minus 3.8, 0.38216. So that will be used here. The output of this will be, the accumulated output will be processed through a TAM function, and you get a final output. Okay. See, whatever I'm trying to tell you is very, very basic, so that you understand this, because as we proceed further, we will get into a lot of hardware implementation details. So I'm trying to stress upon the fundamentals so that you are aware of the fundamentals. Okay. So all these weights and biases I have now got it from the MATLAB training activity. Yes. So for a compressor and a decompressor to be implemented on a hardware, the total number of multipliers required are, see, 4 into 16 at the input side, again 16 into 4 at the output side, and 4 for the bias, and 16 for biases at the output side. So in general or in total, the total number of multipliers required for implementing a compressor 16 for 16 is 148, and obviously the number of adders will be 147. So this is the complexity of a network architecture that we have selected, and here we are talking about compressing 16 inputs to 4 outputs and decompressing it back to 16. Okay, yes. I hope you have understood these basics. Before I could go further, I would like to find out if at all you have any queries till this point, because this is all the fundamentals that we discussed in the previous class. Any queries, participants? Any doubt you have?
No, sir.
Okay, good. Now, quick question to participants. What is the network are we talking about? What is the size of the network now? Anybody? What is the network size that we are talking about to design hardware optimized models? What is the network structure size? Is it 16, 4, 16, 16, 8, 16, 40, 16, 40? What is the network size we are talking about? Okay, let me see the chat. Yeah, good. I think I could get answers like
16, sir.
16, 4, 16. Good. 16 input, 4 hidden layers, and output layer is again 16. So it is 16, 4, 16 is the network that we have considered as an example for implementing image compression using neural networks. We are taking that as the basic to design all the optimum hardwares. Okay. Now the method that has been used for training is, I've used back propagation algorithm, and in general, okay, or in specific, since MATLAB is used, there are inbuilt functions available. I have used back propagation algorithm and the train LM method. Okay, yeah, that is the method that I used. And these weights and biases, I have got it after training the network. When the network is trained, I get the weights and biases of the network. And let me go back. See, since the network is trained, my trained network is net underscore S1. This is the network that has been trained. Okay, this the trained network that I have my variable or the name to given to the network is net underscore S1. Once the network is trained, to find out the weights and biases, I use the function net underscore S1 dot IW for the input weights 1, 1. So these are the weights that are obtained of training the network for the header layer. Similarly, for knowing the weights of the output layer, S1 dot LW 2, 1. These are the weights of the network of the output layer. So now I have taken this and I have used that for training the network, which I have actually now done it. And yes, I have already shown this. No, this is the weights and biases that I have taken from the network. Okay. Yeah. Now we are talking about the hardware implementation. Yeah, we have used NN tool. Yeah, not NN tool. Yeah, it is. We are using NN tool functions. Okay, I have not used NN tool, but I'm using functions available in this NN tool, and I've built my own code for the process. Okay. Yeah. Now let us talk about the hardware optimization process. Again, as I said, this session is extensively for hardware design. Okay, so let us see one by one how are we going to design the hardware process. See, in general, ANN compressor is nothing but a simple matrix multiplication operation, wherein you have the weights 4 cross 16 weights multiplied by your input pixels, okay, which is 16 cross 1. So since I add one coefficient here, so with the one the bias, I make it as 17 cross 1, and I'll get an output of 4 cross 1. So this is the matrix representation of, okay, the compressor unit. Okay, using, I just have to perform matrix multiplications. Now, before I could get into the hardware design, I have taken all the weights, all the 16 weights, and since they're all real numbers, it becomes difficult for me to implement it on a hardware. So to simplify the design process, I have scaled all the weights by 256, converted them into integers by rounding it off to its nearest digit. So these are the integers that I have obtained for the weights. Yeah. Now there may be some loss, but however, I have experimented it. The amount of loss, okay, to be minimized, you have to see what kind of scaling factor you are supposed to actually use. Then I converted that to a binary number. Since there are both plus and minuses, that is the number is both positive and negative, I have represented that using 2's complement process. The purpose of using 2's complement process is, even if there is subtraction, you can use an adder to perform the subtraction operation. Even if the number is negative, you can use an adder to perform the addition process, because 2's complement unit will automatically perform subtraction. So the first activity that has been done in this case is scaling of the weights as well as the bias, rounding it off to nearest integer, and then representing that using 2's complement format, so that both positive numbers and negative numbers are counted in the 2's complement format. Okay. Yes. Similarly, for implementing the activation function, that is the network activation function, which is either a purelin or tansig. For implementing purelin, I don't have to do anything because input will be equal to output. But for implementing tansig, what I have done is I've taken the values of n varying from -1 to +1, okay, at 0.2 intervals. And for all of them, I have again generated the function in MATLAB. Again, I multiplied that by a scaling factor by 256, rounded it off to the nearest integer, converted it to binary, and I converted that to 2's complement format. Again, I have included that in a sign bit activity. Now, this network activation function is implemented on a hardware using an LUT. So, if at all my input coming from the cell body or the adder is -193, okay, if the input is, for example, if it is some input, or for example, it is 2, then its equivalent output would be 1 0 0 1 1 1 1 1 1. Okay, so this entire thing is loaded onto an LUT or a memory element. It is used as a RAM, and then for the input coming out from the adder is used as a memory or address, and corresponding output is read out from the LUT. So this is the method that is adopted to implement network activation function. Okay. Yes. So with this initial introduction, let us now see what are the design optimization methods that are being considered for implementation. So let us go through the process one by one and understand all the activities for optimization of your ANN on hardware. Okay. Design number one. See, for the compressor design, what we have done is, okay, instead of having 4 neurons, okay, we are trying to implement using only 1 neuron. How is that possible? By seeing this picture, can somebody tell how is this achieved? Design of 4 neurons is implemented using only 1 neuron. Yeah. Any input from participants?
Participants, you can unmute or you can post in chat box.
Question, sir?
I have implemented in this architecture all the 4 neurons which are required for the hidden layer. We are implementing using only 1 neuron. How do you do it?
There is one response in the chat box, sir. We will perform operation 4 times.
Yeah. I think that is the correct answer. Okay. So here in this method, what is being done is the following. Okay. Yeah. So to implement this neuron structure, if you want to implement this structure, see, for the first neuron, input is remaining P1 to P16. Even for the second neuron, input remains P1 to P16. It doesn't change. Only the weights, if you take for the first neuron, the weights are minus 0.88 and so on till 0.133234. For the second neuron output, inputs will remain same. The neurons will change. So since the weights are going to change. So for the first neuron, the inputs will remain same. Weights are going to change compared to second neuron. So what happens is, you don't have to have 4 neurons. Just take 1 neuron. And when you perform the computation of the first output of this neuron, change the weights from the first neuron weights to second neuron weights. Again, use the same input, multiply, add, and get the output. So you don't have to use multiple times these weights, this multiplier operations. You can use only once, and that is the structure that has been presented here. So if you see the structure here, there are 16 multipliers here, and there are 16 inputs available here, 16 inputs. And then what we do, there are 16 weights also, 16 weights are also there. Then what we do is, there is an array here, which is consisting of 64 weights. So when you take the first input, the 16 weights of the first neuron that are available here are loaded into the 16 registers. Then you perform the multiplication. Then output of all the multipliers are added through the added registers like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Then you get the final output N1. Then you also add it with a bias B1. Again, you have 4 registers to store the bias element. So when you load the first 16 weights, the corresponding bias B1 will be loaded into the bias register, and you perform the addition, give it to an LUT and take it out. Similarly, when you want to do the computation for the second neuron, load this entire weight matrix from the second array, again 16 elements, again perform multiplication, addition, again accumulate it, okay, then take it out. So if you try to see the structure here, we are trying to reduce the number of multipliers required to implement the neurons, okay, the hidden layer. So compared to the first design and second design, the design one, we find that you need only 16 multipliers, okay? But in the first design, you need 64 multipliers. So reducing a multiplier is always a better approach for hardware implementation because multipliers will occupy a lot of space, okay? And it will also consume a lot of power. Similarly, the number of adders required here are going to be 60 plus 1 because there are 4 neurons, but we can have only 16 adders. So both multipliers and adders are actually reduced in this case. But what is the limitation here is the clock cycle. If you take the first design, okay, that is the general direct implementation, you need to have 1 clock cycle for multiplication, then another 4 clock cycles because it's a 4-stage adder. So 4 clock cycles, then bias, another clock cycle. So you need 6 clock cycles altogether to perform the multiplication operations of hidden layer. But in case of your design one, that is where you're trying to share the weights, okay, you need to wait for 72 clock cycles. Okay, this is one of the limitations of the design. Okay, I hope you have got the process. Similarly, in the design for the decompressor, okay, for the decompressor design, we have taken the 4 multipliers, and again we have a register array, a weight array, okay, weight register array consisting of 64 elements, and you load these 4 elements, okay, by the corresponding weight, multiply it 16 times, you load it, multiply the corresponding inputs, and again you have a 2-stage adder, and output of that is given to a bias, again an adder, then take it into an LUT and generate the final output. So this is another structure for the decompressor, okay, wherein you are trying to share the single neuron, but keep changing the weights and biases and use the same multiplier structure and adder structure to compute the output. And again, in this design, you need only 4 multipliers and 3 adders, but 67 clock cycles. So it is a trade-off between area and time. If you want to optimize your area, then design one is recommended. If you want to optimize for the time, you have to go for direct implementation method. Okay, so we have again further modified this process, and again we have also seen how to what is the novelty of this activity. Okay, yes, I hope you could understand the first design. The first design, let me summarize. We have used single neuron, but we shared all the weights, reusing of the neuron multipliers by sharing the weights, and we could generate all the outputs of both hidden layer and output layer. Similarly, the bias elements were also shared, and we were able to generate both output for both hidden layer and output layer. That is design one. Okay, any queries here? Yes. For all this design, code is written in Verilog and it is implemented. And in the last session, I was able to tell you how the code was automatically generated from the MATLAB and how we modified the code. See, the code that is generated, you have taken it and modified it. The code is modified according to the design that is being discussed here. And after the code modification done, it is implemented on, it is verified using Xilinx and implemented on FPGA. Okay. Yeah. Any other queries you have or any doubts you have, please let me know.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, madam.
In that compressor slide for clock, why 6 is additionally added? 64 plus 6, I think 72 total was there.
Yeah, I'll come back to that. See, in the decompressor, okay, because there are 4 outputs, okay, you need in the first stage 2 adders, second stage 1 adder, and third stage for bias we need
no, sir, in compressor.
Compressor. Okay.
Yes,
in compressor, you need 8 adders in the first stage. Okay. Then
Yes,
second stage 4, third stage 2, then 1.
Okay,
So 4, 3, 8, 4, 2, 1.
okay,
Plus
right,
1 for bias. Okay.
right.
This is the logic. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other queries you will know?
Sir, in the table, 4
Ah.
into 16 plus 6. So the total is 70. Probably you might have asked that thing.
Oh, okay, okay. Maybe I did a small calendar mistake there. Okay, it is so 70 maybe. Yes, correct. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, good. Sorry. Thanks for pointing it out. Okay. Somebody's asked a question. Can we use shift and add method for multiplication instead of multipliers? But if you use more shift registers, it will take more memory. How to optimize memory usage? Yeah. So yeah, that is again a good method of doing it. So shift and add method is a better approach, but you can try with that. But in addition to that, there are many other multiplier methods available. Okay, so those methods, like what our previous speakers were mentioning, you can use multiple adders, multiple types of multipliers to implement your design to further optimize. That is second level of optimization process. Wherein here we are talking about optimizing at the algorithmic level and architecture level. And when you start designing multiplier and adder, that will become your sub-circuit level or subsystem level. So you talk about optimizing at the subsystem level. Okay, but now we are restricting our design with regarding to algorithm and architecture optimization. Okay, yes, fine. Let us now go to design 2. Okay, now before going to design 2, I would like to ask you, can there be any other way by which we can optimize the design, reduce the number of multipliers, reduce the number of adders, reduce the number of clock cycles? What could be your design thought? How do you further get into the process? I think somebody now, I think Umesh, Professor Umesh has told that yes, you can go for shift and add method like that. Can there be any other way by which you can optimize the design at the algorithmic level and architecture level? That is where we as engineers or faculty members, okay, design becomes a very important activity. Okay, and we have to impart these kind of skills to students. Reason being, see, we don't have to do any great designs, and we don't have any ambitions to get into industry, make money. Our job is to educate our students. Our job is to transfer knowledge to our students, because teaching is a noble profession. So how do you make our students stronger? How do you make our students more talented? How do you make our students more useful to the industry? So we have to teach them design process, and that design process comes by way of thinking. Okay, it's out of box thinking. And as a faculty, it is our responsibility to tell them, yes, this is how design can be done, because if you can just trigger them, they will start coming out with multiple designs. Yeah. Let us now see how to take this further. Okay, so what I am trying to do here is, I have just rewritten the expression. Instead of taking 16 weights, I have taken only 4 weights and 4 inputs to make the point very, very simple, and make you understand how to get into an optimum way of design of in an architecture at the algorithmic level and the architecture level. So my first output of the neuron of the compressor is N0, weight W1 of 0, weight W1 of 1, weight W1 of 2, weight W1 of 3. So I'm assuming that instead of 16 weights, I have only 4 weights and 4 inputs. This is as a test case I'm considering to take up the design. N1, again, X0, X1, X2, X3 will remain same, but W2 will change. Okay, it is different from W1. Again, N3, output of third neuron, input will remain same for it, but the weights will change. It will be N3, W30, W31, and so on. And for N3, that is output of neuron 4, for the compressor, inputs will remain constant, it will remain same, okay, for the corresponding process, and weights will be W40, W41, W42, and so on. As an example, I have taken input as 2371, and My weights are W1, W2, W3, W4. Again, taken an example. Okay, this is just an example which is taken to illustrate the optimization process. Now, if I want to compute N naught, that is neuron output 1, it is 2 into 3 because weight is 3, input is 2, 3 into 5, 7 into 4 plus 1 into 6 is now going to be 55. This is the weight, this is the output that I generate at the output of neuron 1 before the network activation function. And the output of neuron 1, okay, at neuron 2 is N1, which is 3 into 6, 7 into 2, 1 into 3, 2 into 7. Okay, so this is the output of the second. Okay, similarly, you compute both the outputs of second and third. Now, what we are trying to do is, see here, I'm representing neuron 0, the output of neuron 1, 2 into 3, 3 into 5, 7 into 4, and 1 into 6, which is now 55. So I request the participants to just focus so that you are able to understand the activity. Okay, yeah, and some of you who are already aware of this may really understand why this is used for NN implementation. Now, 2 is 0, 1, 0. Okay, because 2 is 0, 1, 0. I represent it binarily. 3 is 0, 1, 1, and 7 is 1, 1, 1, and 1 is 0, 0, 1. 3, 5, 4, 6 are the weights that have been obtained after training process. Further, what we do here, this 2, I am representing it in terms of binary weights. 0 into 2 power 2 plus 1 into 2 power 1 plus 0 into 2 power 0 into 3. So this expression, I am representing it using binary weights. Okay, so the output will not change. Multiplication will again lead to same product. Similarly, the second term, 5 into 0, 1, 1 into 5, 0, 1, 1. So 0 into 2 power 2, 1 into 2 power 1, and 1 into 2 power 0 multiplied by 5 plus 1, 1, 1 into 4. I have written it here. 0, 0, 1 into 6 is written down here. Okay, yes. Now, if you try to see this expression here, if you try to see vertically down, 2 power 0, 2 power 0, 2 power 0, 2 power 0 is common in all the 3, all the 4, and that is at the LSB cell. And the middle bit, 2 power 1, 2 power 1, 2 power 1 is common. Again, at the MSB bit, 2 power 2, 2 power 2, 2 power 2 is common. So what I do is, we try to rewrite this expression like this. 0 into 3 plus 0 into 5, 1 into 4, 0 into 6, I take it as one group and multiply it with 2 power 2. So I take all the MSBs together, put it in one term, multiplied by 2 power 2. Then I take the second term here, 1 into 2 power 1 and so on, again multiply it with 2 power 1. Then if you take the third term, that is LSB, multiply it with 2 power 0. So if you try to see this 0, whatever you see here in the first term, 0 is the MSB bit of first input. The second 0 here is the MSB bit of second input, that is 3. And this 1 is the MSB bit of 7. And 0 is MSB bit of 1. Okay, so this is how it has been rearranged. Similarly, in this term, if you try, see the last term, 0 is the LSB bit of 2, that is the first input. 1 is the LSB bit of 3. 7 is the LSB bit of 1 is the LSB bit of 7, and 1 is LSB bit of 1. So just by small rearrangement of this, you are able to get this equation. Okay, yes. Before I could continue further, any query, please? Have you understood this?
Sir, how 0.2 or 1.2 value is selected?
Oh, sorry. Actually, I communicated wrong. So it is not point, it is multiplied. 0 into 2 power 2.
Okay.
0
Then,
into 2.
then it is, yes, clear, sir.
Okay,
Clear.
yeah.
Yes.
Fine. Now, I have rearranged this by separating the MSBs, LSBs, and middle bits separately like this. So if you take the last term here, it is all LSB bits of the input 2371. Then the next term, the middle term, is the middle bit of 2371. And the leftmost expression term is the MSB bit of 2371 multiplied by the corresponding weights 3, 5, 4, 6 and the binary factor 2 power 2. Okay, this is what is been done. Okay. Okay. This is for another example, 4 into 3, 2 into 5, 2 into 4, 3 into 6. Suppose your input changes, but weights will remain same. 3, 5, 4, 6 will remain same. Again, for this new set of inputs, in the previous case, it was 2, 3, 7, 1 was the input, but now it is 4, 2, 2, 3 are the inputs because inputs keep changing to the network. Okay. Now, if the input changes, weights will remain same. 3, 5, 4, 6 will be the weights. Again, I have reduced that in terms of binary weights. Again, I have rearranged all this vertically like this. And if you see this, okay, 0, 0, 0, 1 are the LSB bits of 4, 2, 2, 3. 0, 0, 0, 1 are the LSB bits of 4, which is 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. Okay. Yeah. So now I have just given you a simple example how, okay, for if your input is 2, 3, 7, 1, what is the output and what would be this, reduced expression. Suppose if you get a new input for your neuron 1, that is 4, 2, 2, 3. Okay, again I have identified what would be its expression. Now, from this two equations, what is projected here, what do you understand? Any kind of inferences can you get across? What are we attempting to do now?
Number of multiplication operations are reduced.
Yeah, you are correct, but we are trying to eliminate the multipliers now. Okay.
But sir, can we do something like if a bit to be multiplied is 0, then no need to perform multiplication?
Yeah, that is also possible. That is a different method, but here we are trying to come out with a different method. Okay.
Okay.
I'll explain you what it is. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? You have any queries? If you have anything, please let me know. Have you understood this? Because I don't want you to get confused because this is a very important process. Okay. See, I've just taken example 1. In example 1, I have taken output as 2 into 3, 3 into 5, 7 into 4, 1 into 6, where 3, 5, 4, 6 are the weights highlighted in red color. So weights, once trained, it will not change, but inputs will keep changing. So the next input is 4, 2, 2, 3, and output is 48. Now what I did, I took 2, 3, 7, 1, represented them in the binary format. Then I rearranged them in terms of LSBs and MSBs, and I got this expression. Second, for the new input, example 2, again, weights are going to remain same, but your inputs are going to change. Again, for these inputs, I expressed them in terms of binary format. Again, I converted them or grouped them into MSBs and LSBs, and I got this particular expression. Now, if you try to see the common factor between input 1 and input 2 is, you find that in this first term or in the last term, what you come across, 3, 5, 4, 6 remains same. 3, 5, 4, 6, 3, 5, 4, 6, 3, 5, 4, 6, 3, 5, 4, 6, 3, 5, 4, 6. Every term will have 3, 5, 4, 6 common. But what is happening here? In the first example, last term, that is LSB term, 3 is multiplied by 0, 5 is multiplied by 1, 4 is multiplied by 1, 6 is multiplied by 1. So it is 0 into 3, 1 into 5, 1 into 4, 1 into 6. In the second term, on the first example, 3, 5, 4, 6 remain as it is, but 1 into 3, 1 into 5, 1 into 4, 0 into 6 is what happens here. Similarly, in the MSB term of example 1, it is 0 into 3, 0 into 5, 1 into 4, and 0 into 6. Now, if you see, only this 0010 is the first, first set of binary combinations. The second set of binary combinations is 1110 and 0111. This is what you find across here. But if you take the second example, again the binary combinations are 1000, 0111, 0001. So if you take, there are since 4 operands, the binary combinations here can be 0000 and it can go up to 1111. So there are 16 possible values of your inputs. But in this case, in the example 1 and example 2, we're able to see only 8 or 6 possible combinations. But it could be anything else. Okay, it could be 16 possible combinations. So what is actually done? We now take, if your input, the MSPs or LSPs are 0000. If it is 0000, it is 0 into 3 plus 0 into 5 plus 0 into 4 plus 0 into 6. It is all going to be 0. I put 0 here as the first content. If the input is 0001, is 0001. What is 0001? 0 into 3, 0 into 5, 0 into 4 plus 0, 1 into 6. It is going to be 6. So I put 6 in the second location. Okay. Now, if the input is 0010, it is 0010, it will be 0010. So it is 0 into 3, 0 into 5 plus 1 into 4 and 0 into 6. So output is now going to be 4. So by considering all the 16 possible combinations, you are able to generate a partial product, or you're able to predetermine what could be the possible outputs of this multiplication activity. So now this lookup table, this is called lookup table, or this is called the memory that is predefined by us and pre-computed by us, considering the weights, because weights are going to remain constant for a corresponding neuron. Okay, so if I take the first neuron, the neuron weights are 3, 5, 4, 6, and for that their inputs can keep changing. For all the possible combinations of input, I have computed the entire content or the possible outputs of multiplication. I hope you have understood.
So, sir, is it a kind of lookup table thing, like all the brackets, the
Yes.
values are already prepared, and then only 2 raised to power 0, 1 or 2 is to be multiplied with the
Yes,
final values,
you are
right?
absolutely correct. You are absolutely
Okay,
correct.
okay, right. So lookup table concept that we know. Okay.
We are using the lookup table concept because
Okay.
weights are fixed. So we predetermine the possible combinations and we are taking it as a lookup table.
So can we further add on into this even multiplication is need not?
Yeah, I'll continue. I'll continue that. I'll continue. I'll complete the design. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Yeah.
one question, Shashidhar here.
Yes, please.
So can we generalize this lookup table so that it's to any other example? You have shown for these 2 examples how to form the lookup table.
Yes, yes.
It's good. Can we have a generalized table so that for any input combination we can make use of that lookup table?
Yeah. See, as I said, assuming my input is going to vary from 0 to 7.
Yes.
Okay. I have computed all the possible combinations for 0 to 7.
Yes, sir.
For weights equal to 4. Okay. So now this lookup table is compatible for any kind of input varying from 0 to 7.
Okay.
But limited to 4 weights.
Fine.
Constant weights. Okay.
Okay.
So it's a very generic lookup table now.
Fine, sir. Fine.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Shall we continue, or any doubt? Please let me know, because we are going to next step. Okay. Now, yeah. The next step, what we do is, see, I know the content of my lookup table. Now, what we do, we have this structure here. What is the structure is? I load my inputs. 2, 3, 7, 1. Input is loaded now. Okay, so my input were 2, 3, 7, 1. Input is now loaded here. Okay, yeah. After loading this input 2, 3, 7, 1. Okay, so we have taken the input as 2, 3, 7, 1. So this is the input 2371. So now I've taken this example to illustrate how that is further works. So 2 is loaded in the first register, 3 second register, 7 third register, 1 in the fourth register. 2371 is available. Excuse me. Now these LSBs of these registers are made as addresses to the lookup table. They are made as addresses to the lookup table. Now, when the data is loaded, when the input is loaded, this lookup table is already pre-calculated and it's available to us. Okay. Now, when after loading the data, I take the LSB 0, 1, 1, 1. See, if I go to the previous operation, there's 0, 1, 1, 1. Okay. For an example 2371, it is 0, 1, 1, 1. Okay. So this 0, 1, 1, 1 is the LSB of 2371. I make that as the address. So if it is 0, 1, 1, 1, so if it is 0, 1, 1, 1, output is 15. So I'll read out 15 first. The first clock cycle will read out 15 because the LSB is 0, 1, 1, 1, and for 0, 1, 1, 1, I get 15. Then the next clock pulse, my input is 1, 1, 1, 0. 1, 1, 1, 0 is the middle bits. So for 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, output is 12. So I read out 12 out of this LUT. So first is 15, second is 12. Okay. Then I have to perform addition. I'll tell you how to do that. Then the next bit, that is MS bit 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. I read it out 0, 0, 1, 0, 4. So 4 comes out of this LUT. So in the first clock cycle, I read out 15. Second clock cycle, I read out 12. Third clock cycle, I read out 4. Okay. So these are read out considering the LSB bits and MSB bits of the input. Suppose if it changes, it could be 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, or it could be anything. Again, the same LUT is used and I read it out after 3 clock cycles. Okay. Yes. Now, after reading it out, we have to perform the process of addition. Okay. And also we have to perform the process of multiplication by 2 power 0, 2 power 1, 2 power 2. Let us see how are we going to do that. Okay. So now in this simple structure here, data is loaded. Once data gets loaded, you're able to use the LSBs, middle bits, and MS bits to read out the content of lookup table because it's already been predetermined, pre-calculated, and it's available to us. And now, once you read it out, you have to now perform multiplication and addition. Okay. Just want you to relax for some time watching this video. Okay. So what do you understand in this video? Somebody? I hope you're able to see the video there. Play.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do you understand? No, just give me a common general answer. Very, very general answer.
Crossing the line.
Crossing the line. Okay, good. Yeah, anybody else?
Speed, sir.
Speed. Yeah. Good. Somebody has told speed. Increased speed. Yeah.
Oh, you are going for monitoring a particular person.
Yeah, we are trying to track the person running
Yeah.
there. Correct?
Labeling.
Labeling. Okay, good. See, we call the Usain Bolt as the fastest man running on earth, right? If you see the video there, initially all of them are at equal distances. They are all of them are competing for the race. But as the line approaches, you see how Usain Bolt is able to accelerate, and he is leaving all others way behind him, and he is able to win the race and comfortably, he is able to relax at the end of the race. So speed matters. Anything you do, you need to be very fast, and that acceleration will happen only at the last stages of the race. Similarly, see, we are now getting into the design process. Okay, we are trying to see how to improve the speed, area, and power performances. So we have to now accelerate the process. Since we are supposed to accelerate the process because we have very less time given today, I hope all of you understood till this point what we have done. Okay, so let me go back. Okay. So let us see how we as a faculty, we don't have to run, but can we accelerate our design thinking process? That is what we can definitely do as faculty members and inspire our students to run. Okay, yeah. So I said this simple design has been very neatly explained. I hope none of you have any kind of queries. If at all you have, we can take it up later. Now, in the first clock cycle, 0111 forms the address. You read out 15. 1110 in the second clock cycle, you read out 12. Okay, then in third clock cycle, it is 0010. You read out 4. Now let us see how to perform the process. See, actually, what is happening in the first clock cycle, 15 is read out. That should be multiplied by 2 power 0. This entire term is equal to 15, which you are able to read out by not performing multiplication, but by using LUTs. That should be multiplied by 2 power 0. That means 2 power 0 is 1. But when you read out 12, 12 should be multiplied by 2 power 1. Okay. Then 4 should be multiplied by 2 power 2. And then you can perform the addition of all the 3 to get the final output, whatever is intended for. Now what we do at the output stage of the LUT, you have an adder and an accumulator at the bottom. See, you have an adder at the top and an accumulator at the bottom. This accumulator or the register will be initially reset to zeros. It will all be zeros now. Okay. Now 15 comes out of the LUT. 15 is 0001111. So in the first clock cycle, since 15 is coming out of the LUT, so it is 0001111. Add it with the content available in the register, which is initially reset to 0. So it will be 15 plus 0 will give you 15. So this is the output what you get at the end of the first clock cycle. That output will be again stored back into the register. So register is now having 1111, that is 15. Okay. Next, what happens in the next clock cycle? In the next clock cycle, you find that 12 is read out. Because you're reading out 12 from the LUT. Now this 12 should be multiplied by 2 power 1. So 12 should be multiplied by 2 power 1 before you could add it to register content. See, you should take 12, 1100, multiply it with 2 power 1, then add it to the register content. Now, for that, the output is this. Okay, you should get a particular output. So this is wrong. I think I just not included that. Yeah. Now, to do this performance, to this addition operation, there are two methods available. What is method 1? In method 1, what we do, since 12 should be multiplied by 2 power 1, so we try to shift 12 towards left. So that means 12 is now becoming 110012 is shifted left, means it is 11000. After multiplying 12 by 2 power 1 or 2, it is just shifting 12 to the left. Then adding it with the content of register 1111, you get an output 100111. This is method 1. In method 2, we don't shift the LUT output, but we shift or right shift the content of register by 1. So what happens is the register content was 1111. It is shifted right by 1. So the output of LUT, whatever you get, will be in the same location. It is not going to be shifted. Okay. But again, you add that with this register content. Again, you generate the same output 0010011. Okay. So let us understand, in the first method, LUT content 12 is shifted left and added to the register to get the final output. But in the second method, LUT content is not shifted, but register content is shifted right. And again, when you add, you get the same answer. I hope you understood both the methods. Yes. Now tell me, out of these two methods, which is recommended? Which one can we use, method 1 or method 2?
Method 2.
Yeah. Can you also tell me why, so that no participants can understand why method 2? Any particular reason? Okay. Any chat
If
messages?
there is one in MSB,
Ah,
in method one, then
Ah.
in shifting right, it will give wrong result. I think it may be dropping that one.
dropping that. Okay. Okay. That is
But if
also,
we
yeah.
right shift the another 15 number,
Hmm.
even if there is, I don't know how it handles with 9, whether it works with 9 digit or it works with 8 digit,
Okay.
8 bits.
Okay. Okay. See, we will ensure that the number of bits which are required. Okay, we'll consider all the overflow conditions also. Okay, we will not generally take it like that. We'll take overflow conditions and design. But out of these two methods, my recommendation is method 2. Reason being, let us go back. See, once the data comes out of the LUT in the second clock cycle, you have to shift that content left once. So you need additional clock cycle. And then add it to the register content. So to add the content of LUT in every clock cycle, you need an extra clock cycle to keep shifting it left by 1 unit. But by taking the second method, what happens? As you generate the output of LUT, since the register content is idle, during the same time, you can do a parallel operation, shift the register content right by 1 unit, so that even if the shifting is happening, the clock cycle is not wasted there. So as soon as the LUT content comes in, your register content is shifted and ready to get accumulated. So in the same clock cycle, you can perform addition also. But if you use method 1, you have to shift first, then add. But in method 2, what happens? LUT content will be automatically added to the shifted register content, but that shift would have happened in the previous clock cycle. So you're able to save 1 clock cycle there, and that is what is method 2 all about. Okay, yes. Now we have taken the second clock cycle and we are able to perform the process. In the third clock cycle, again, the content of register would have been shifted by 1 unit, and you get an output equal to 1. Okay, so you get an output equal to 4. That the content of the shifted register, and you get an output 000110111. So this is the output what you generate, and now this is equal to 55 because I have put that at the bottom, the scaling. So it is 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 16 plus 32 will now give me 55. So if you see this simple structure, whatever we have discussed here is able to perform the multiplication and addition of the expression of a single neuron. Okay, but in entire process, we are using only adders, registers, but the multipliers are completely eliminated. See, instead of using 148 multipliers, in the first design direct implementation, in the second method, we reduced it to 4 multipliers or 16 multipliers. Okay, but in this design, if you see, multipliers are completely eliminated. So if you try to compare all the 3 methods, okay, a method where multipliers are not going to be used will always save power. Okay, and that is what is recommended. Okay, so this is how we try to do design 2. Let us summarize. See, the requirements are, in this case, you need 4 registers for storing the data, and your depth of the memory will be 2 power 4 because there are 4 inputs. 2 power 4 will give you 16. So you need to have 16 locations of the LUT, 1 adder. You need to have 1 adder and 1 shift register. So to implement this design, you need to have this amount of data, and you don't need to have any memory or multipliers required for implementation. Okay, now further to this, okay, before I could go to next design, I've understood this. Any queries, please let me know.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, madam.
In place of this adder and shift register, just for example, suppose here for 16 possible combinations of 4 bits, in place of so total, can we have 3 more such variations, so which will also perform multiplication of 2 raised to 0, 1 and 2. So lookup table size will increase by 3, but even this adder and this is not needed. Shift register.
Yeah, you are correct. But see, why we are taking, we don't want to change that because, okay, we wanted the inputs will keep changing now. Okay. So when the inputs keeps changing, the 2 power 0, 2 power 1, 2 power 2, no, it may not be present always. Okay. So the standard method is you have to have that adder and register. You cannot eliminate that by just again having one more LUT. Okay.
Okay,
You should definitely have it. Okay.
okay.
Yeah. But you can eliminate the adder by using a zero padding method that can be discussed later. Okay. But you can eliminate that adder, but not using LUT method. Okay. Now let us go to the next step. Okay. Yeah. See, yeah. Now to realize this neuron, for the compressor, whatever we discussed, there are 16 inputs. So there are 16 weights and one output. Correct. So my structure would be 16 inputs. If there are 16 inputs, 2 power 16 will be the depth of the LUT, which is going to be 65536, and one adder, one register. See, if the input is 4, you need to have memory LUT of 2 power 4. If the input is 5, you should have 2 power 5. If the input is 10, if the inputs are 10, you should have 2 power 10. So depth is 2 power 10. If you're having 16 inputs, your depth will be 2 power 16. So you need to have 65536 locations of the LUT. So if you say this is the structure. Okay, for the given neuron, for the compressor part, I have taken a LUT which is having a depth or memory locations of 65536, and I have taken 16 inputs and use this LUT to perform the complete activity, and it requires one LUT and one adder and one register, but it does not need any kind of multipliers. Okay, now this is very interesting for us. This is for the first neuron. How are you going to realize for the second neuron? See, I create another LUT of depth 65536, pre-calculate all the possible content of the LUT by considering the weights that are known to me well in advance. Okay, so that is my second LUT. So inputs will remain same for the first LUT, inputs will remain same for the second LUT. Again, I need to have adder and shift register separately for the second LUT also. Okay, yes. Similarly, for the third neuron, I can have one more LUT design. Then I can compute the 3 outputs of the neuron. So what I actually try to do here is I have completely eliminated the multipliers. Instead of multipliers, you are replacing it with LUTs. So we have designed 4 LUTs now, and we know what are the content of these 4 LUTs, and we have pre-calculated, and we are using that to design the structure. Okay, now let us go to the actual architecture. See, for my ANN compressor part, what is the logic here? Inputs P1 to P16. Okay, I have taken it and I attached to this structure 4 LUTs, LUT 1, 2, 3, 4, which are all pre-calculated, pre-defined. These LUTs are attached to this. Now what I do, I design a control logic, I design a program so that when inputs P1 to P16 are applied and I want to compute A1, that is output A1, I choose LUT 1. To compute A2, I choose LUT 2. To compute A3, I choose LUT 3. And to compute A4, you choose LUT 4. So by just attaching a memory element to this structure, you are able to realize the compressor part. Similarly, you can have 16 LUTs for the decompressor part. Okay, and you have 16 outputs generated. I hope this design is understood, and we call it as multiplier-less design. Okay, yes. Let me give a 1 minute break or maybe 30 seconds break. If at all you have any queries, please let me know. Yeah. Participants, any queries?
Sir, instead of this lookup table, can we use the multiplexer?
Multiplexer.
So the weight we need to give as a selection line of that multiplexer, and
Yeah.
whatever the inputs we require, that we need to give as a input lines. So is it possible?
Yeah, it is possible, definitely possible. But when you use multiplexer, you can choose between the weights.
Okay.
Whether you want to have neuron 1 weight or neuron 2 or neuron 3, neuron 4. But output of the multiplexer will be given to multiplier for multiplication.
Okay.
So you still need multiplier there.
Okay. So it will not be the multiplier less design.
No, it will not be multiplier less design. No.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. But here it is completely multiplier less design because we are using LUTs. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Fine then. Let us go for it. Any other queries, please let me know. Yeah. See, somebody is asking DSB, what is LUT as a hardware form? See, LUT is basically your memory elements. You store it as ROM. Okay, it is a ROM now, or it could be a RAM as well. Okay, it can store certain data. Okay. So it is, it is actually using more hardware, but the processing power, for example, if you want to perform multiplication and addition, the bits keeps changing. Whenever the bits keeps changing, dynamic power dissipation actually happens. So usually what happens, to reduce power dissipation or to reduce complexity, it is always better to go with a memory-based operation. Okay. So most of the designs, not all the designs, but some of the designs, it is always recommended to go for memory-based operation. Now, the other advantage of this method is, see, if you take an FPGA has more memories, like in the form of LUTs. So if you want to implement your ANN on an FPGA, the method that I proposed is more appropriate because the resources available on an FPGA is having more number of LUTs. Since you have designed your architecture considering memory elements, what happens? It becomes easy to implement your design on an FPGA and make your FPGA more compatible, more compact, so that you can implement complex designs on FPGA. Okay. Now there are questions like, whether we have to write code for it. Yes, obviously we have to write code because all this code is developed using hierarchical factors. Okay. So you have to write the code for LUT, write code for your memory, everything you have to write actually code and integrate it in a hierarchical manner. So I think somebody is asking Kona Kalla, what about multiplier plus power gating? Yeah, see, power gating and all those things are definitely additional methods, but not at this level of optimization. See, this comes at the sub-circuit level or subsystem level. We are talking about algorithmic level optimization and architecture level optimization. When you go to next level, okay, for example, you are going to next level of optimization, that is your sub-circuits or subsystems, your power gating, clock gating, all those things can be considered. Okay. Yes. Now, why are we doing this? Why are this method? Why are we? What is the advantage of this method? What we are talking about? So now you will understand if I go to the next slide. See, this is the actual reason why we are trying to use this method for our activity. So when you want to implement real-time training and hardware computation, see, when you want to take up for a real-time implementation of your ANN or DNN or any of the deep learning methods, see the logic here. See, I have a software or maybe a C program or a controller, which is basically the software part. See, the software environment is highlighted in the red color at the bottom. This is the software environment where we try to take up an ANN model. We define ANN model. You can define it. You can tell, okay, this is 10, 20, whatever it is. Then you have all the possible the input data vectors available with you for training. You start, what are the desired output, what is the actual output from the network. So what you do is you train in using your controller. You try to put it onto a microcontroller, or you try to put it onto a GPU processor, or you try to put it on any of the TensorFlow, whatever it is. Okay, you try to do the training program there. Then every time you calculate the error between the actual data and the desired output, you get the error. Depending upon the error, you keep on updating the weights. Once your error is within the permissible limits, yes, you are satisfied with the error. Yes, now I'm comfortable that training has been achieved. You now know that the network has been trained and the trainable parameters like weight and biases have been identified. So you have computed the weights and biases which are optimum to meet the required output. Now use this software to convert that weight and biases to binary numbers and load that into LUT1, LUT2, LUT3, LUT4. Load it. Now this top portion is your hardware part. See, you cannot go for real-time hardware updation, okay, wherein training and all is, it's a very complex process. So the general method adopted in all the FPGA implementation or in all the hardware implementation is training is done using a software. After training is done, compute the outputs of weights and biases, okay, optimum weights and biases, convert that using your software to content of LUT automatically, load that into the LUTs available. Each one of them is a RAM. Load it separately now. After loading it separately, now you have a hardware configured to perform any kind of compression activity with regard to ANN methods. Now you start using your inputs which are not part of training or maybe part of training, because the weights are all available with you, biases are all available with you. You can start generating or compressing the data. So this is the reason why we are trying to use this kind of approach for implementing your ANN on a hardware. Okay. So now I hope you would have got the idea why is this method adopted. So it's a very simple. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, madam.
Sir, you said no, sir. We have to done the training in software itself. After that, once the training is done, we have to take that trained parameters into our hardware.
Yes.
So how, sir? After training, we have a lot of parameters, no, sir. Weights and bias are there.
Yeah.
So how to convert those things into hardware, sir? Because memory is needed. In memory also, in how I don't know, sir, how to convert the training inputs to hardware.
Okay. Madam, I think let me go back.
If suppose we have to done our training in MATLAB or some other software environment, once the training is done, we can extract our weights in software MATLAB. How to convert that MATLAB inputs into hardware, sir? If anyway we are going to write a very long code, right, sir? So then those things I'm not getting.
See, there are three things here. Okay. Training is done in the software environment.
Yes.
Then you have a hardware on the other side.
Yes. If now, suppose I'm doing,
maybe it could be an FPGA now, right?
Yeah, FPGA. Okay.
It could be FPGA, it could be a DS processor, it could be anything. Let it just it's a hardware. Now, what happens is, in a simple method, I take the trained weights and biases. Again, I write a code. I write a small code in the software environment.
Okay, in MATLAB itself, right?
MATLAB itself, yeah. In MATLAB itself.
Okay.
To convert that into appropriate ones and zeros.
Okay, fine.
Then I also write a small program to convert it into content of LUT.
Okay. In a software environment, MATLAB itself,
like software environment.
Okay, sir.
Then I transfer that data to my memory available on FPGA.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
There is a new platform available from Xilinx called Edge Computing, okay, wherein they integrate everything together. You can you can write a Python code. You can write a Python code, execute it on your controller on FPGA.
So what is that, sir? What is that, sir? What is it? Repeat, sir.
You can use Zinc platform itself for do this process.
Okay.
Then you can use Edge Computing, Edge FPGA. I think ML408 or something like that. It's there 406. Okay, wherein you can have hardware, software co-integrated onto an FPGA. Both
Okay.
could be done. Okay, it uses TensorFlow, Keras, it uses your Python programming. Then it also uses Verilog programming, it uses C programming. Everything is integrated on a single environment, and then you can completely develop your DNN or ANN on an FPGA platform.
Okay.
But the
Sir,
base,
yeah, okay. So one more thing, like data is more, right, sir? So we can't able to store all the our parameters, training parameters in FPGA itself, right, sir? If FPGA memory also it's limited, right?
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct.
Yeah, then how we will transfer our all the things in FPGA, sir? If any required additional memory is needed, like DRAM.
Yes. You need to have that. Yes.
Okay.
You should have onboard additional memory elements to do this. Okay. Okay. That is one way, but I'll tell you the other way also.
Okay. Sir, if suppose if I'm doing those things in ASIC, not in FPGA, so how, sir, my memory it will be like, I'm asking.
Suppose if you're doing an ASIC design,
yeah,
according to me, training and all will not, I think you should have a separate GPU processor for that.
Okay.
Then you should have another architecture, another interface.
So tomorrow before exam, you meet me.
Okay. So you should have separate, two different modules. One a GPU processor, okay. Then your hardware. To that, you train and then transfer the data to hardware. That is the method available. Okay.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Now, before we could go to any other further discussions, see, everybody in the industry talks about so many things. They tell that I'm an AI engineer, I'm a DNN engineer. No, I'll tell you, as an electronic engineer, we have to know this is the fundamental activity.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, madam, please.
Hello.
Yeah, please tell me, madam.
Yes, so one more question, sir. Like ANN model will in error input will be given, and it will calculate weights and bias, and then it will be given to LUT. So basically, based on value of W and B, we will have totally new values to be entered into LUT, and it will take some time also for calculation. So overall time which was needed maybe because of the multiplier, and now because of the calculation of W and B, and then it is loaded into LUD, totally new fresh values. So whether overall performance will in form of time or clock cycles will remain still it is same, or what will happen?
I understood your question. See, during the training phase, it will take a lot of time. Okay. But once the network is trained, considering all the possible data sets, assume that you have taken a complete, all possible 10,000 images you have taken, and you have trained the network for all the 10,000 images. Now you are very clear that yes, any kind of image it can give me, I can compress and decompress without any errors. At that point, you decide, okay, now I have trained my network, I have obtained optimal weight and bias. Now load the data into LUT. Once you load the data into LUT, and you are now you are in the hardware side. Once you are in the hardware side, it is nothing. No, there is no any time limit now, because apply the input, data is processed, comes out. So everything is now happening in the hardware part. So it is actually going to be at least 10x faster than software implementation, because hardware implementation is obviously faster than software implementation, because here you are using the software environment only for training. Once training is done, you load the data to LUT. Once it is loaded, then you use the hardware. Suppose you find that again, once you load the data, you are not able to get correct results, again go back to training. Again, until the training is satisfactory, don't come to your hardware. Okay, that is the method that is adopted. Yes.
And sir, one more last question, sir.
Please, madam.
How will get this desired output?
See, desired output is I decide. For example, if I want to do my compression and decompression, I know that input, whatever I give it as an input, it should be compressed and it should be reconstructed. So I know the output also should be input itself. So my desired output is input itself now. In the example, whatever we consider. Okay. So now until I get back my actual input that I applied to the network, which is my desired output, I keep on training. Okay, so that I'll be able to get the network weights and biases, optimum weights and biases.
Okay.
Fine then. So let us see. The summary of today's session is, if you remember this structure, whatever I put that in blue, green, yellow, and all, this is the basic structure. Any design if you take, okay, it could be either on a GPU processor, or it could be an FPGA or an ASIC or anybody. This is how the entire gambit of ANN or CNN or DNN is actually done. Okay. Yes. Now, limitations. Let us see. Suppose if your input is 16. The LU2 is 2 power 16, so you need to have 65536 size LUT. Suppose if your input is 4 neurons, there are 4 neurons in the hidden layer, so you should have 4 LUTs, each of 65K memory size. So again, it's a very, very complex process. For an ANN, if there are 100 inputs, see, usually ANNs will have more than 100 inputs. So the size of a LUT would be 2 power 100, which is actually very impossible number to be implemented. Suppose it is 16 input, but there are 100,000 neurons. Okay, suppose 16 inputs are there, 1,000 neurons. Again, you should have 1,000 into 65536 memory elements. Again, it's an impossible factor. So it is going to occupy too much of memory space, and this method, whatever we discuss, is obviously not possible for implementation either on an FPGA or on an ASIC. Whatever it is impossible. Can there be any other alternate methods available? So let us see how we are going to design next one. We take it as design 3. Now we are running out of time, 11:10, another 10 minutes. Let me wind it up. Okay, yes. What is design 3 is? In design 3, what we do is very simple. So again, A1 is function of N1, or N1 is function multiplication of P1, W1 until it goes on till P16, W16 plus bias. I right now neglect bias because there's only one small process there. I rewrite this equation as like this. N1 is now equal to P1 to P8 first term plus P9 to P16 second term. So I have split the entire multiplication operation into term 1, term 2. N1 is now equal to N11 plus N21. N11 is P1 to P8 multiplication. N21 is P9 to P16 multiplication. So now your inputs are 8 inputs because it is P1 to P8, and weights are 8 because it is W1 to W8. And out you have to further add these two outputs at the end. Now, because of this small change, right? Because of splitting the input into 2 parts, you find that, see how it is going to have impact. For 16 input, instead of having 65536 depth LUT, by just splitting this into 2 parts, P1 to P8 and P9 to P16, the depth of LUT has been reduced from 65536 to 256. Similarly, for the second term, N21, it is 256 depth memory, and you perform the, you separately compute the output of the first one and the second one. You need an extra adder here to finalize the final output. Now, if you try to see this method, you are splitting the expression into 2 terms and then identifying the LUT content and taking it out. Now, because of this, what happens? The LUT depth is varying from 65536 to 2 into 256, it is 90, it is 5 and 12. You are able to save 99.21% of memory saved because of simple logic like this, and you are able to add one extra adder. See, this is the beauty of this architecture. Okay, just by small manipulation with your mathematics, you are able to optimize your hardware memory requirement, and you are able to implement, okay, the entire structure, which is better than using 65536. I hope you understood the design optimization, and this is what we talk about. Take it as design 3. Okay. Further, you can keep on doing this. Again, you should have a trade-off between number of adders and the clock cycles and the memory limits. Okay. Yes. Let us go to design 4. What else can we do now?
We can further divide it into 4 group, and the depth will be maybe 2⁴ with additional few adders.
Okay, fine. That is one way of doing it. Any other way? Can you think an out-of-box approach? Out-of-box process. Okay, since we have a shortage of time, so we have another design that has been done here. Again, what is done is, in this architecture, we have identified common factors within the weights of the neurons, and we have eliminated the redundancy within the weights, and then we are using one LUT to compute two outputs. See, in this case, we have one LUT to compute only one output, but by eliminating the redundancy between the weights, this structure, whatever we have, okay, it has inputs, but two outputs are simultaneously converted, computed, or that means two neuron outputs are computed by identifying the redundancy in the weights. So this is the new architecture that has been identified. And for this, the structure is identifying redundancy in the weights or common factors within the weights and eliminating the redundancy. So that you can use one LUT, an input of 8, LUT depth of 8, to compute two neuron outputs simultaneously. This is another architecture that is actually designed. Next. So this is another structure that we have designed. Again, it has been patented. We have split the inputs into two MSB bits and LSB bits, and we have two LUTs. Each LUT will compute two outputs, and we were able to generate 4 outputs using this simple structure. Okay, again, using only two LUTs. Instead of having so many LUTs, we are having only two LUTs to compute 4 outputs, and each LUT is of just depth of 8. And in this structure, what we have done is we have computed the, we have eliminated redundancy. Then we are able to identify the positive clock and negative clock mode of operation. Then we have also split the input size, 10 bits or 8 bit, into two operands, LSB 4 bits and MSB 4 bits, and we have completed this design. And this architecture, you are able to implement 4 neurons using single structure, and LUT is only 16 locations are required. Okay, yes. This is design 5. In design 5, what is actually done? See, ANN is actually matrix multiplication. So if you take the weights, again, multiply by the inputs, multiply weights, multiply neurons. So this again a simple matrix multiplication. We have implemented a 3D systolic array architecture. Again, data enters, the weights are entering from one side, inputs are entering from the other side. Each layer is able to perform multiplication and accumulation. Here, we are not using LUT-based approach, but you're using directly multipliers. And this is a systolic array approach for implementing your ANN, which is having multiple layers. This is another approach that we have designed, and it is implemented on FPGA by tweaking the code that is generated using MATLAB. Okay, yes. This is another design that we have done. Further, if you know, I think we will skip through this. Yeah. Now, if you try to understand what are the limitations of ANN, so the limitations of ANN is like, if you want to process an image, 2D is to be converted to 1D, that is pre-processing, and NN process is happening in the 1D data, and then 1D should be again reconverted back to 2D. So you have post-processing there. So this pre-processing and post-processing is a complex process. It is again adding additional delay. So what we do, when you do that 2D to 1D conversion, see, if you take the picture on the right hand side, if you do a column or row scanning, see the first column is converted and put in the first 4 elements, second row, and then what happens, the correlation between these pixels are completely eliminated if you convert from 2D to 1D. Because the first pixel, second pixel, third pixel, they're all very close by. But when you scan it, the first and second pixel are available in the first 2 locations, but this pixel, which is supposed to be placed close to this, is now shifted to somewhere down. So what happens? The entire correlation between the pixels is lost. So instead of going for this rows column scanning, we have used zigzag scanning, and this improves the correlation between the pixels. This is one of the conversion methods that is also recommended for converting 2D to 1D. Then what is also done is, after taking each of the frames separately, because trying to process video frames, video separately. Now you to convert all this 2D to 1D, you have multiples of FFNN architectures, and we call it as 2D FFNN architecture. Using 2D NNFF architecture, you're able to process multiple frames simultaneously. Okay, that is another structure which is using parallel processing operation for implementation. Okay. So in order to further improve the correlation between multiple pixels, once you convert it from 2D to 1D, and if you take this first frame or first row and process using only one frame, we have cross-connected all the pixels in multiple frames. See, the first pixel in the first frame goes to the second neuron. The second pixel in the second frame comes to the first neuron. So we are again increasing correlation activity among these pixels, so that the training is trained. It is going to get well trained, and then there is any blocking artifacts that are available in your image after it is being decompressed. Okay, so this is another 2D architecture with increased correlation process. So this is again designed and implemented. And this is another structure wherein we don't convert from 2D to 1D. The inputs are taken as it is. Okay, we don't convert it from 2D to 1D. Inputs are taken as it is, but we have a 2D FFNN structure to process that data from all the rows, and then we're able to generate output. So this is again design which is being patented, and it is right now we are working on this architecture for converting that to a CNN based structure. So I think I have given you all the details, but again, to extend this to CNN, I may have to have one more session. Okay, but again, I'll stop at this point because I have achieved my objective and told you how to design the architectures by optimizing the designs. So this is my last slide. So if you see, the summary for today's session is ANN is implementation is equal to matrix multiplication operation. So if you want to implement ANN, you should be well versed with matrix multiplication process. Identify the weights. You can further optimize your design. See, in CNN, what happens basically is our convolutional neural network, instead of processing the input image as a whole, they try to take features properly, or they take features out, and then the features are processed in multiple stages. Then they do pooling operation, again max pooling operation, then softmax, then they get the
Hello? Sir, audio is not coming, sir. Cyril, sir?
You are not audible, sir.
Internet problem. Hello, Cyril, sir? Hello?
Yes. Sorry, I think there was an internet problem.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
I don't know where I got cut, but this is my last slide. Okay, so design of ANN for hardware implementation is one of the most sought after job opportunities available currently in our country. So those faculties who are very young and just taken over as faculty positions, you can definitely get into this. You have fantastic opportunity in the industry. But those faculties who are taking teaching as a profession, our objective would be to encourage our students to become hardware engineers for ANN design. So I hope this session would have been completely it could have just created awareness for you and focused more on the basics to tell you how to work on hardware implementation of ANNs. So I stop at this point. If at all you have queries, please let me know.
Yeah, participants, any queries?
hello, sir.
Yes, madam. Please.
Right. Sir, can you share your mail ID?
Pardon me?
Like mail ID with us?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Any other questions from the participants side? Sir, there is one question, sir.
Yeah, yes. Okay. So there is a question from Shweta. There any scope of circuit level implementation instead of FPGA? Oh, yes. Obviously, there is lot of opportunities for circuit level implementation because FPGA is a poor man's VLSI. That's what I was told by one of our professor. It's a poor man's VLSI. FPGAs. But if you get into ASIC, there is again lot of opportunities for implementing or optimizing your design. Definitely in the industry, lot of students are required for FPGA, ASIC implementation of ANNs. Okay. Any other queries? If you know, you can ask me. Otherwise, I think I'm well within the time. We have another 5 minutes. Okay,
Sir, I think
what is the need for implementing circuits with ANN? Okay, obviously, the advantage here is if you do it on a hardware, if you do it on a software, the embedded system or software it's basically a software controlled hardware. Implementing a ANN or DNN on a GPU processor or anything is a software controlled hardware. So naturally there is a delay. But when you want to have 10x improvement in the speed, power, area, you have to go for circuit implementations. You have to go into the full custom design approach or bottom up approach and then get into the circuit design or use a semi-custom design approach for this process. See, according to me, every FPGA, including Spartan 6, supports implementing ANN. Because the designs, whatever we have discussed today, we have implemented it on Spartan 6. Because the training is done offline, but implementation or the processing of the data is on hardware. So even Spartan 6 is more than enough for us to implement ANN on FPGA or implementing. Okay, if you have RTX or you have Kintex or you have any other device, modules, only thing is the complexity of your application would increase. Okay, but otherwise Spartan 6 is more than enough for us to implement image compression using ANN. Okay, because you have done all the optimization there, and the training is not happening online; it is happening offline.
Any other questions? Okay, sir. Okay. I think there are no more questions. Cyril, sir, thank you very much for your session, sir. It was very informative on neural network architectures, and you have shown us so many number of architectures, and it is very useful, and the participants can take use of all this. And thank you very much, sir.
So thank you from my side, and I thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. The next session will be at 11:45. I request all the participants to rejoin at 11:45. Thank you, sir.